how we ride. This is how we do. Ride mudslide.
Well, how are we doing there, ladies and gentlemen? We are doing fine today. Oh, yeah, the curls are out. They are hanging. A little thicker on this side. I'm not sure why. Now, there is some other things that are happening in the racing world. This is one of them. I want to start the show off, or this talk here today, with this updated information. This is something that we have, documented, kept up with, that we have opinions on as far as safety and racing. And obviously, if you haven't seen our Triple X video, you can go check that out and some of the things that are happening. But this is a update for Chase Johnson, ladies and gentlemen. And this was posted on the NARC King of the West Facebook page. And it is from Jim Allen. And it goes on to say, I, Jim Allen, had the opportunity to have a long conversation yesterday with Chase Johnson and his wife, Haley, who are at their base camp at the Shepherd Spinal Rehabilitation Center in Atlanta. Chase is in good spirits despite his current medical condition. He described his daily routine of 8 hours of intense physical and mental therapy, which drives the healing process in hopes of a full recovery. He commented that it takes a ton of brain power to move his toes, and he is positive, determined, and optimistic that this is just the beginning of good things to come. Now, the second half is what's a little bit more important. I think this is the message that needs to get out. It says, what can we do to continue to help Chase? The answer is pretty simple. The same thing we collectively have done over the past 10 weeks. Haley spends a large portion of her day pouring through invoices and battling insurance companies that don't want to pay their fair share or want to pay a very limited amount. Some of those bills are 6 digits. And this doesn't even include other expenses that are not covered by insurance at all. It's mind-numbing. It is pretty crazy, the current health industry, insurance industry, how it plays back and forth and plays all these games and then mixes in with politics and gets you to not care about some of these things based on amazing comedy shows. Regardless, it continues to say, just so everybody is on the same page, you can continue to donate to Chase Johnson's recovery efforts through his GoFundMe account or the NARC Benevolent Fund, or directly the Johnson family, who are some of the nicest and sincere families in motorsports. They are great people, are extremely grateful and humbled by the outpouring of support from the racing community, friends, and business partners. They are very thankful. So that is the update. Funding is the problem here. Healthcare. Funny enough, we just see it as some talking points in our general discussions of these leaders and how they talk about it and somewhat carelessly don't care about it and, bootstraps and do it on your own. Well, here's a relatively successful, generally successful family, driver, person, and they're having issues with medical bills in the medical industry, the insurance agency, the insurance companies, the manipulation of these things as well. But we should just give more power to the insurance companies, I guess, and that's how they're going to take care of us. We don't need government to set regulation or make sure there's fair and equal health care treatment to the world when you need it, like this situation with Chase Johnson. Interesting enough how these situations are still not enough to sway your decisions when you walk into certain booths later a week from now. Interesting, but sad, a little bit disturbing how insurance in the medical industry operates. But if you have funding and you want to support racing, I suggest going to this GoFundMe account or the NARC Benevolent Fund, or directly to Chase Johnson to join the support on this entire situation. Good to know he's in good spirits, but the financial burdens that the health industry puts onto us in society, it should be more important. It should be more important. It shouldn't be a chip that is played or ignored based on other things that are happening. This is actually a pretty alarming post in that aspect, that this is normalcy out there. How the insurance companies, the medical industry works. It's a three-ring circus. I think you could tie the food industry into this as well. FDA, Food Drug Administration companies, all these things are tied together with insurance companies. I personally believe, being the ligaments that tie everything to make healthcare cost so much. You can also look into the college system, the loans, the amount of time you have to go to schooling to become a doctor, which is fine. But why are they charging so much? Therefore, these people who work in the medical fields, they get into extreme debts. Therefore, they have to charge an extreme amount to make up for those extreme debts and loans to go to schooling. It's a big, giant, intricate system that definitely needs some rectification. And unfortunately, in this situation, we're getting a undeniable example of the extremities of the topic at hand. I think originally we could talk about safety for sprint car racing and all these things and how to prevent this from happening again. But now I think you can look into this as a issue within the medical industry, the insurance industry, and then just a week out from a very important election, understanding the importance of this when going into that voting booth. I didn't mean for this to go into that direction at all. This is just off the spur of the moment, but this is a really good example as to why sometimes that is a talking point in the political domain. So it's good to look into policies and what people want to do. Continuing, there is a situation that I have named RAINGATE, and let me tell you something. The optics of this situation are insane. We're going to get into it. We're going to break this entire shenanigan down. We have some inside information on how this happened, and it doesn't have to do with fan counts or rain. RAINGATE, ladies and gentlemen, on the other side. Have you been searching for that next level upgrade? Ready to invest into something that is in it for the long haul? Well, look no further than the composited innovations provided by Prime. These customly crafted pieces are handmade by former Jason Johnson Racing car chief and Prime owner-operator Clyde Knipp. Prime Composite Innovations is located centrally in Missouri and is looking to provide that big-time performance at a fraction of that big-time price. For additional information, visit prime-composites.com today to see what they have to offer, as well as their stable of current full-time drivers that trust Prime with their ride. For the future of innovations, with the properly composited type, you can depend, move forward, and rely on Prime. Your screen is correct, ladies and gentlemen. Posted by Clayton, not the real Allen, which Clayton Allen, the owner-operator of Riverside International Speedway. Ain't no party like a World of Outlaw party. The blowback of what I have deemed RAINGATE. Of course, the World of Outlaws, for those who don't know what we're talking about, canceled the Saturday race this last Saturday at Riverside International Speedway, and the reasoning was rain. Rain was the reasoning for canceling, and multiple sources, people, posts, and even video came out on how the pits were basically dry. There was a light sprinkle shower, and at the tip of a dime, that race was canceled. Fans in town, this area of the country does not get to have Premier 410 sprint car racing. So when they get one, when they have the opportunity to see it, it's a really big deal to them. This isn't PA. This isn't Knoxville. This isn't Houston. This isn't California. This is Riverside, with a history of Sammy Swindell, of Greg Hodnett, Hooker Hood. I mean, the sprint car lineage is there. It's just changed over the years. Predominantly a 360 track, yes. Predominantly a 360 area. So, when you get 410s, you really want to see them. Of course, the Friday night event rubbered down in the main event, went to a relatively boring racetrack. So, a lot of people were saying, well, hell, if it rained, that at least would give us a tacky racetrack, similar to how High Limit had one, and had a hell of a race, a battle to the end. But RAINGATE happened, and the blowback from this cancellation, ladies and gentlemen, has went from P. Diddy jokes to this right here. Let me show you what we're talking about. The World of Outlaws tried to continue business as usual. They made a post about 10 days until the World Finals on their Facebook page. 10 days. They're like, 10 days to the World Finals. And look what happened. Look at the comments in here. Had plans to come out on a trip, and after this past weekend and your foolishness of canceling, we decided to cancel our trip. I wasted a Saturday and about $400 in West Memphis, Arkansas, right on the border of Tennessee is where the track is located. I wouldn't plan on here's another comment. I wouldn't plan on the show happening if it rains, one drop, or if the clouds are out. At this point, they may use the hurricanes as an excuse to not show up. Hopefully there isn't any clouds in the sky on race day. Michael Moore says, I am sending my ticket stub to World Outlaws tomorrow for a full refund. Thank you in advance. I heard the finals were already rained out. It continues, ladies and gentlemen. It continues down the list. Why not just and this is very true. All this blowback is pretty interestingly to be blamed on this comment right here. Why not just tell the truth? They didn't want to race, afraid they would lose money. I will spend my money with high limits racing from now on. Just lost a big fan. Another comment. I hope it rains out every event y'all try to have next year. So these people are pissed. And even a later post, ladies and gentlemen, this was yesterday. World Outlaws posting, harmless post, nothing to do with World Finals or racing. What's your favorite track to rip a sprint car on? The new World of Outlaws Dirt Racing 24. In the comment, is there an update to turn on the rain? Asking for a friend. Now, an interesting element, a lot of people are saying potentially fans. I heard through my sources there was enough pre-sale tickets to run both nights. The pre-sale tickets for this event were relatively good. I know some people didn't think the stands were full. That's fine. There was enough pre-sale tickets to run that show, just like there was at Joliet. Joliet looked a little soft, but odds and ends allowed that to race. Pre-sale tickets, I'm assuming, had a lot to do with that. Obviously, different facility, different location. Weather, I think, affected that. The weather down there outside of this sprinkle that no one thought was going to happen was relative. In comparison to Joliet, it was amazing. The temperatures weren't freezing cold or sub 50 degrees. I believe it was going to be 65, 63 degrees Saturday night at Riverside. So weather outside of the rain gate of the situation was not a factor here. And in my sources are alluding to me that ticket sales was not the issue here. It has become very apparent to me that there were some mutual agreements between the track and the World of Outlaws. And after the Friday show went how it went, due to the lack of these things that were requested to be fixed or provided and mutually agreed upon to be provided, the little bit of rain in the sky, the little drop, was the straw on the camel's back that caused this cancellation. Now, in my opinion, that is not the World of Outlaws' fault at all. In fact, I say that their cancellation of Saturday's event at Riverside International Speedway is 100% justified. But when you, and this is why it's hard to blame just one thing or one person, but when you go to the point of lacking transparency, which wasn't this transparency word, and the Outlaws lacking it, isn't that kind of why High Limit kind of started? You'd think they would learn. But due to the lack of transparency with the fan base about one of the 5 certain things that were not met, or 2, and you go to rain, you opened up the floodgates and funny enough, in Raingate, you opened up the floodgates for criticism, for reactions in the way that we have seen them. Even Riverside International Speedway posted that it wasn't their decision. They're throwing you under the bus. I honestly, at this point, am surprised they didn't cancel the entire weekend, but due to what they received Friday, in many aspects, I understand why it was canceled Saturday. The problem is, once again, when the world of Outlaws and their transparency to deliver that message to the public as to why that Saturday event actually canceled. And we're in 2024. This is the social media era. All these things you have to think about now. This is why High Limit is also a bigger threat than the USA or the NST or any of these examples, because we are in the social media era. Everyone is a news headline. News travels faster than you can click your fingers together. So, and people are thinking and being very verbal about that thinking. It's a different social media world now than it was 6 years ago, 5 years ago, 4 years ago. People are very attuned to verbally speaking up and saying something and commenting and sharing more so now than ever. So you have to somewhat crack the door. I'm not saying list every damn thing a reason as to why you canceled Riverside. And honestly, you're too far gone right now. But for future reference, let this be hopefully a lesson to learn from. I understand the go high scenario. Don't World of Outlaws, we don't do that. We don't act that way. But if you're going to suffer the repercussions in this social media domain, you got to, like I said, crack the door on some of the reasoning. That's all. And at this point, I mean, outside of, tiptoeing around subjects from some other channels on the defense, I'm the only guy out here right now literally defending the decision and somewhat trying to give some rationalization and restore some credibility that apparently was lost. And if it doesn't restore your credibility, then that's fine as well. I don't understand how we are in a situation here that the lesson cannot be learned. But what's happened has happened. There's a ton of fans who see what I'm talking about. They know it's not the rain. You should have known that as well. Where's the strategy here? The strategy is for you to look like the bad guy and for people to say, don't go to your races, and you hope every one of them rains out and sending in tickets and getting refunds and you pissing off half the fan base. I mean, was that the goal? Was it? I get that, bad publicity is still publicity, but really to this degree? And if you're going to make that kind of call and try to save face for the track and the people in that operation, don't you think you'd at least be on the same page to the point that they won't do it to you? Hey, Riverside, we're going to cancel this due to XYZ, but when we do, at least halfway defend our ass on Facebook. Don't just throw us under the bus. We're not throwing you under the bus. But once again, acting nice, acting proper, white-collaring the situation, we don't do that. Okay, I understand the level of professionalism you're trying to obtain there. That's great. That's grand. But how many people in our fan base are white-collar? Or how many people in the world are white-collar? How many of the people in the world appreciate transparency in the blue-collar industry and absolutely hate bullshit in our community? So, in an element, you somewhat have to, even though you want to do the professionalized thing, you somewhat have to read the room a little bit, I think. And when you read the room of this racing community, you need to somewhat, like I said, crack the door open to remove some of the bullshit. Just crack it. I'm not saying destroy the professionalism of your reasoning, but credibility in what you convey to this racing community as fact or as true or as believable is very important in this era that you are in now when you're dealing with high limit. Very important. This is a challenging situation, and your credibility could potentially make or break you in this situation. I know that sounds crazy. I know y'all believe in y'all's brand and all that. But once Johnny, I said it on the show, once Johnny Gibson quits announcing, what are you going to do? You're going to have something more. I do think Johnny Gibson is the World of Outlaw brand to a point. Once you lose that, what are you going to do? And high limit's in it. Like we've talked on the show for the last several weeks now, David Gravel is on the trading block, it seems. That's a big chip in multiple aspects, not just on the racetrack, but obviously the ties with Husitz and Jackson and all these things. Obviously, they don't have a damn thing to do with the fans, but it does have to do with your survival. And I think in this point of your existence, you're going to need that credibility, at least with the racing community. Maybe you just enjoy everybody running their mouth on Facebook and questioning and commenting and sharing and maybe, once again, bad publicity is good publicity. I guess that's the angle to this as well, because it did spur a hell of a lot of reactions. But I don't know, man. I just feel like in this era, a social media era, high limit era, all these things, the community needs to believe you a little bit. A little bit. Although, I guess in my defense, I basically built my brand and my side livelihood here on content by simply just pointing out the bullshit that happens out of your organization. I mean, this is just one thing out of the whole entire year encompassed of things to complain or point out that just don't add up, big question marks. You literally have, once again, I do think high limits existing due to these things. Obviously, there's other elements. Obviously, they wanted to have a series. Obviously, Brad Sweet wanted to be a promoter. All the regular things. But transparency, that word floated around a lot. A lot. When this high limit thing was first kicking off. That was their selling point. Because you lacked it. Anyways, multiple ways to look at this, multiple lessons. But once again, overall, I don't blame the Outlaws at all for canceling this event. And it's not my responsibility to sit here and list X, Y, Z as to why you did. But that's where the blame goes back to you. That is your problem. That is your issue. The lack of transparency in this situation somewhat makes you to blame. And not opening up the door and throwing the kitchen sink out, but just cracking the door up and whispering to these people what it is instead of just saying some damn rain. You don't have to throw them under the bus, but you can at least protect yourself from getting thrown under. That's all we got for the show today, ladies and gentlemen. Be sure to like the video. Comment below with what you think. How important is this transparency situation in today's society for the World of Outlaws, for even high limit in that aspect, for this silly season, for everyone's, I would say, credibility, but I believe that reputation is very important here as well. Anyways, comment below. Tell me what you think. As always, be sure to subscribe. We will catch you next time.
This is how we ride. This is how we do. Ride mud, slide, no.